Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of Enforce technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by Enforce technology, only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Tactical Impact. I'm your host, Jim Silvernail. Unfortunately, I'm flying solo today. My co-host, Jason Lovelman, is unfortunately detained doing chief stuff as we speak, so he's unavailable. However, we're going to have a great show for you today. We're going to talk everything that has to do with tactics. This is the show about tactics and how we make a tactical impact on the foreground. Realistically, this isn't textbook stuff. This is things that have actually occurred within our industry, and that's the case today. Today, I have Captain Brian McHugh here with the Florissant Valley Fire Protection District, which should be a name that rings in your head because that's also Jason Hubbleman's agency. So this gentleman gets to work alongside Jason on a daily basis. But Brian, how are you? Welcome aboard, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. When Chief Hovelman asked me to be on here, I was kind of taken aback, like, oh boy, what do I do now? But I really am honored, so I appreciate it, Chief. My name is Brian. I've been a captain at Florissant Fire District for the last 4 years. I've worked there for 16 years. Typically I work on a Quint company out of our main house with our battalion chief. You guys probably already know about Florissant with Chief Hovelman being on here, but we're a busy suburban department just outside of St. Louis. So we run about 14,500 calls a year, 3 engine houses with 4 ambulances, 1 Quint, and 2 rescue pumpers. So we got great culture up there. It's a great place to work, and I look forward to retiring from there.
So this edition, we want to talk about a fire that Brian had just last week, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so it's fresh in his mind, and we're going to talk about tactical impact and how he impacted that fire. But let's start from the beginning. What did you have on arrival, and what did you deal with?
So I was actually functioning in the role of acting battalion chief that day. So our battalion chief was off. So my company had an acting captain. We had another full-time captain that was off, so we had another acting captain. So it's one of those situations that, it was destined something was going to happen. When the big boss is off, you always know something's going to happen. So it was about 7 p.m. We were all sitting in the captain's office at House 1. Tones go off for a first alarm. So this fire is actually on the edge of our district. So our automatic aid, which we get, they were scheduled to be first in, second in, and then our company was going to be third in. So I arrived first as a battalion chief. I got out the door a little quicker than those guys, which we talk about that. So when I got on scene, our dispatch had reported en route that it was a bed frame on fire. Everyone had evacuated the structure, and that's kind of what we had. As I was approaching, you could see smoke in the distance. We arrived on scene, and we had a heavy fire on the Charlie side. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but there is a little bit of an addition and a deck coming off the Charlie side as well. So we had heavy fire showing. That's me in the driveway there. So I got off, did a 360 before any of the other companies got there. Like I said, the whole back of the house was involved. It was a bedroom in the back along with a living room in the back of the house. Heavy smoke showing on from the Alpha door. And then on the Bravo side, there's actually a door as well. That was kind of a half door or a door that went down to the basement, but then also up into the kitchen. So when I did my 360, I kind of put my head in there. There was no obvious fire, just the heavy smoke coming in from there. So Ferguson, who is our automatic aid, they were the first ones there. So they pulled a line off, and with our ambulance company, which our ambulance is our first two ambulance. If there's no obvious patients on the scene, our first two ambulances, they attach to the pumper. So they attached with Ferguson, and the plan was, in my mind, we were going to pull off an attack line because there was survivable spaces on that front Alpha side and Alpha Delta corner. We were going to pull off a line. We're going to go in, search off the line, have the company hold that fire in check kind of off the back. So
that was my initial question was your arrival. You guys do a lot of work in these houses, correct? I mean, this is pretty typical in Florissant. This is your frame house. Probably how big do you think it is, Brian?
900 square foot. And we'd run a lot of calls in this neighborhood too. And they're all about the same, a little bit different of floor plan, but all about 900 square foot.
So having the experiences that you have in these neighborhoods, what are your priorities when you pull up?
So in this particular neighborhood, there's always a lot of people living in these homes. So my priority initially, especially with us having the survivable space, we know the house was occupied when the call came in per the dispatch. My priority was, let's get inside as quick as we can. There's survivable space. Let's get in there. Let's get a quick search. And then thought process was, as you can see there, our second due company our second due established water supply, which I'm sure we'll get to, but our second due pulled off a exposure line to start hitting it from that Delta side. So everything was going very smooth right off the bat. And then we had some hiccups.
So, a lot of people might say, okay, this should be bread and butter. Florissant does these calls all the time. They have these fires. But the problem is then it's becoming too complacent with what we do, correct? But I know that you guys are always on the ball. You guys are always training. You're always ready for those. What kind of problems could this type of structure give you, and what did it give you?
Well, I mean, obviously the fire growth, that was very rapid. So what we found out from the family was they attempted to put the fire out prior to calling. So obviously, as we know, that's going to give us the fire growth. It took off, and it had a little bit of a jump on us just because we weren't notified immediately. So as you can see from that first picture, it was we had a well-involved fire in the back of the house. Some of the things with these particular houses in our neighborhood, it's a lot of broke up structure. So there's really, while the floor plans seem simple, there's just a lot of like bedrooms off of kitchens or, bedrooms off of bedrooms in the back of the houses and things like that. So on this particular house, there was an addition on the back. So we knew that it was a bedroom and a living room, and that's what was involved. So we tried to get in there, as quick as possible, but we did have encountered some water supply issues, which that I would say was our biggest hiccup.
So let's say let's take this for granted. Let's say that you guys are not a good fire department, which you are, and you did not look at a full 360, and you do not do your full due diligence of getting in those spaces that are absolutely still have life in them, still viable. I know that you've had those before, and what would happen in this case if you delayed any type of fire attack or delayed any type of search in this typical strip?
I mean, I think if I understand you correctly, I mean, if we would have delayed any more, we would have had potentially fire involvement in the front of that house. Like anyone, afterwards just kind of second guess, like, okay, were my tactics the right tactics? Was my decision making there? So we certainly could have taken our line around the backside immediately, our first line. What that would have done, it would have put the fire out, but it would not have potentially given the victims inside the opportunity to survive. So we have kind of shifted with our command staff and our training division. We've kind of shifted, which I'm sure a lot of people have. We really are putting kind of an aggressive approach on the get in there, search, and obviously we want to put the fire out because things always get better, but we definitely want to give the people and the citizens the best chance at it. So I feel like we've been doing a good job with that, and I think it all comes with the experience or the opportunities to do that. We run a lot of bread and butter fires, but we don't really get fires like this very often, or not as often. So
typically a lot of companies, who become complacent might say, well, it's during the afternoon, there's nobody here, there's nothing, there's the viability or somebody being in there, the probability is low. And I know that your mindset at Florissant is not that. It is always search until, prove unoccupied until otherwise, without searches is still occupied. Kind of talk about the rescue profiling on this wreck.
So like I said, initially we looked at the front of the house, and I kind of consulted with the first two captain from Ferguson, and we said, hey, while the residents were in the front yard saying everyone was out, just like you said earlier, we kind of are of the mindset that we're going to go in and we are going to prove that house is occupied or there's victims in there unless otherwise noted. So the profile or survivability profile, obviously, if you look at it, some would argue, no one's surviving that. Well, that front right bedroom on the Alpha Delta corner, the door was actually shut. And I wish I would have pictures to show you, because that front big picture window is that's a living room. And then off of there is a bedroom. And within that bedroom, it was 100% survivable. And we'll kind of talk about, we did pull everyone out briefly because we lost water. But once we did the VES on that window, it was still, we had smoke damage, a little bit of smoke damage, but it was 100% a survivable space. So that is, I kind of, it's reassuring, and it kind of pushes the thought of this is why we do it, for situations like this. Because had we not done that, had we just kind of taken the defensive approach off the get-go and gone around back, the outcome or potential outcome, if there was victims in that bedroom, would have been significantly different. So, but yeah, I think, like I said, in hindsight, I wish I would have taken some more pictures. It would have really driven the point home better, but I didn't. But everyone can kind of picture that Alpha Delta corner on that house, that bedroom door was closed.
So I'm gonna bring up, speaking of pictures, I'm gonna bring one up, and I want you to talk about this a little bit. Like I said, you're an aggressive fire department. You guys do this a lot. How valuable is this?
So that's huge. And the gentleman there on the ladder, he was riding up as acting captain that day. I've had the pleasure of working with him. He was on my crew for the first 3 years that I got promoted. Very aggressive fireman, absolutely loves the job. He loves doing VES. That's what he's very good at it. He loves to do it. He pushes it. So we have just implemented on our engine companies those short ladders. I don't know if you can kind of picture that there. So both of our engine companies have these in their very accessible areas. So we kind of cut down a ground ladder. But on this particular one, I had this is after we pulled everyone out because we lost water. And Zach there, he's the acting captain. He kept coming up. He's like, I need to get in that window. That's the only area I haven't searched. I need to get in there. And we kind of took about a 20-second reset to pull everyone out, did accountability, and then we gave them the green light, and that's when they went in. That was the only area of the first floor that they were not able to search on their initial search before we pulled them out. So they already had their ladder up at the front of the house, so they were prepared. They were ready to go. And like I said, I'm sure we all have those guys like Zach that are just chomping at the bit, ready to go. But in this particular case, they were in and out. Once they got the green light, they were in, did their VES, and it was very good. They were very proficient. And it's a younger guy going in right there. He's got about 3 years on the job. So, but that's not the first time he's done it either. So it's one of those things we've kind of gotten in the habit of doing that a lot more. And I would like to think that, we're successful at it, and we get guys in those spaces quick.
I like the fact that you guys know your response area, and that you did that. Where did you guys come up with the ladder idea? Was that on your own, or?
No, I think actually somebody went down to one of Pensacola conferences down there, County Fire Tactics, and they brought it back. This is years ago. Well, as you know, everything in the fire service takes a long time to get implemented. So we had a ladder that we had pulled off one of our trucks. We weren't using it, so Zach and his brother were like, well, let's cut these down. And that's what we did. So like I said, we have two engine companies on the outside of town that both have these on them, and they're right next, kind of in between our pre-connects. So they're very accessible versus having to pull, or if we have a ladder rack where we got to pull the ladder down. So these things are, they're by their hooks, and they can grab their hooks and grab the ladder quickly. So we have used them numerous times already. We've had them on the truck probably about 2 years now, a year and a half, 2 years. They've been used. They've been a very valuable resource for us.
Well, I know that you guys got captured by one of our local news crews pulling somebody out, actually using this method and pulling somebody out of a house. Were you on that fire? Or
No, I had just made relief that morning. But yeah, that was another. That was actually shortly. We were kind of in the transition period of when Chief Hogelman was taking over as fire chief, and it's right behind our firehouse, our house 3. And that was actually the ambulance crew that went in and did that vent enter search. So the engine company, and that's kind of how we plan it. The engine company pulled the line and kept the fire in check. The ambulance company, they knew they had a victim in there, so they went into that. It was the Charlie side window, went in and actually had a victim in there and rescued the victim with 0 deficit. So I mean that was a very good success story, and I think Chief Hovelman even talked about that in his keynote at FDIC.
It truly is. A lot of people think that VES is only really for second stories, but the majority, a lot of the work that we do is on the first floor. And getting in those windows, you don't want to take for granted. You can't just hop in that window. I mean, we've seen so many ways of doing. You can put the Halligan up, put the step on the ads, get on top, and get inside. But this really makes it much easier, especially if you have a victim coming over the sill.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had the little giant ladders on all of our trucks, which we still have. They're just a little bit more cumbersome than just that single small section. So we've had great success with it. And I mean, it was literally, it's a 5-minute, you cut the ladder in half and, make it to what we needed. And it works for us. So it may not work for everyone, but it certainly does for us. And we love it.
So going back to the front picture, where did the first line go? You said it, but just kind of want to go over the front line again.
So the first line came off of Ferguson's Quint right there, and they went in with our ambulance company. They went into the Alpha door, so like that Alpha Bravo corner, and they got in. They had some water supply issues with their initial line, water pressure issues, I should say, not supply. They had it, just didn't really have much pressure. So once we got that worked out with the engineer, they got a little bit of pressure, and then by that time we also had, as you can see there, we had the standard spaghetti in the yard on that green line. That was our exposure line. The acting captain there, Jeremy, was coming back, and they got that flaked out pretty quickly and were able to get water on that exposure quickly because it was starting to catch there. But so those guys went in the Alpha door with the intent of they actually had a 3-person company coming on, or a 4-person company. So 3 members off of Ferguson went in that Alpha door, and then our 2 ambulance personnel went in with them with the intent of going in and then, searching off the line there. So by the time they got in, they had they encountered heavy fire on the back side of that living room, going just straight back towards the Charlie side. So they started hitting it there. They started to search that front living room. The ambulance company did. And then at that time, all of this is kind of happening simultaneously, but we're very fortunate that everyone gets there quickly. But at the same time, it kind of makes things almost go really fast, and keeping things organized is a little tough. So we did have a water supply issue where they did a forward lay in, and it was about a 500-foot lay or 5-section lay, and it actually got caught underneath a vehicle. When they went to charge it, the supply line was caught underneath the vehicle. So the first-in company did lose water. It was a brief, I would say, no more than 15 seconds before they figured it out. But my thought, and I haven't been doing command very often, but in this particular case, by this time the fire had progressed where you can see it over the roof line now. So I pulled everyone out, kind of regrouped, talked to the Charlie command officer, and what we did is we just made a quick knock on it from the outside, and then we sent crews back into the Alpha side and in to do the VES. So that's kind of where the timeline was from it. So
you bring up a good point. I mean, I think, it's kind of like a pilot having alternatives for problems. A good pilot always knows backup problems. And I think in our business, sometimes we take for granted that, things can go wrong. And so, having redundancies built in to the actual system, I think we don't do that enough. So, how did you resolve that water problem quickly? Was it the SOG, or did you already have something in place?
So we and not everyone up there does it just yet, but we are big on like a truck to truck, or some call like a booster backup. So the Quint company that I'm then typically on, they showed up third, so they nosed in, and they actually had a truck to truck line into the first in company. So we kind of had and we preach the redundancy aspect of it day in and day out, almost to the point where people get frustrated. They're like, we get it, you don't have to keep talking about it, but it works. It's proven, and this is a great example. So like I said, everything happened so fast, but we did have the truck to truck line established, and they were charging that line simultaneously as they got the hydrant line removed from underneath the vehicle. So we did have that second water supply ready to go. On a normal situation or a normal call, with our companies, and especially with our battalion chiefs, they all preach it. You better get it done, or somebody's going to be in some trouble, So, that's why we are actually starting to train more with our mutual aid companies on this. We've had some serious fires over the last year or so where it's been proven, hey, why do you guys do that? Okay, now I understand why you do it, So now we're starting on the training part of it. It was first off trying to get people to understand, not look at us like we have 10 heads. Now they kind of are getting it. Now we're working on the training and just trying to get it to work. We are not perfect by any means, but this particular redundancy, the truck to truck line, it does work. And this is a great example right here on this call.
Well, I think typically, in suburban demographics like we are, or even big cities for that matter, there's always a debate on how you do water supply. And words always and never are terrible words. I think there's always so many different options of how we do it. Typically, in our world, the second due will get the water and bring it in, only because we're used to having 3-person companies. You got to be inside that structure as quick as possible, go past the water, let the second due lay in, and get your water supply. But that's not always a given, right? And in this case, you had 4. So that company stopped at the hydrant, which isn't a bad call. It's probably a great call. I'm perfectly confident of working off booster tank water, but I also know that our second dues are right behind us, and if they're not, you probably need to reconsider that captain. But like I said, our second dues are right there. But what happens if they're not? What happens if they're detained or something happens to them and you only have sometimes 500 gallons of water? Do the math. You got a couple minutes of flow, and you better be making an impact and getting out. Other than that, maybe you stop in a hydrant. Once again, you need inside the structure just if you have to legal. That's why I think we typically go past. But then the old adage is, the argument is, well, if I stop at the hydrant, do I keep the water, or I just put my 5-inch or 4 inches straight into the tap truck? And I think in this case, you see the value of keeping the hose, to that truck and going truck to truck. I mean, how do you guys see it?
Yeah, so that's kind of, and I guess I should have been more clear. I apologize for that. So the first in company went to the scene. Our second in company, which is also automatic, they laid in, and they went right into the first supply company, and that's where the confusion. So
I got you.
So our second in company, they did a forward lay in because they had another company right on their tail. So the fourth in company stayed at the hydrant, charged the hydrant into the first in company. So. But this is, like I said, though, this is a great example and a great teaching point. And we did talk about it as, when we did our kind of quick hot wash afterwards, we said, hey, had we had that line coming into the second in company, if we brought your supply line from the hydrant into your truck, they had 1,000 gallons on their truck, on their pumper. So they could have pumped another 1,000 gallons into that ladder, which the ladder only had 450 to start with. So, we're going from 450, or we can work with 1450. I'd much rather have the 1450 right off the bat, so, and it's just really getting proficient at that. And that's where, like I said, that's where we're starting to work on the reps to try to get guys familiar with it, because we have a lot of young engineers around us in the various departments that they say, hey, I'm open to anything. I just need to know, I just need to learn it, so that's always good. They're not stubborn, old school fireman mentality of, they don't like change. They're open to it. It's just, they just need the assistance in getting there. So,
yeah, 25, 30 years ago, we would have been going in with booster lines on these calls. When we realized that's not the way we do business anymore. Could you make it work? Sure, but that's not the point. The point is that there's so many things that we can't take for granted. What happens if the fire does overcome us? I mean, that's a very good possibility with a booster line. I'm just giving one example of staying in the dark ages, but No, there's a value to understanding what you're doing. And like I said, never, truly, always and never are terrible words in our business, because there's always these variables that pop up, like the one you experienced in water supply. It's very typical, I think, that when we look at some of the buildings that we failed in, it's because of water supply. It's either that or lack of truck company operations. I can almost pinpoint all the problems that I've had on the fire ground, or the failures that we've had due to our benchmarks, because of those factors. But getting into another point, I know Jason and we just talked a couple weeks ago, and he had introduced his after action report, which you guys do every fire. Those are highly beneficial to any organization. I think that you will get an enormous amount of information as far as, being successful or not being successful. The benchmarks of, hey, I went to the fire went out, nobody got hurt, are not true benchmarks. I mean, if you've gone to a fire, you know that they're out right now, regardless of the tactics you employed. Kind of talk about your benchmarks a little bit, Brian, and how they were, how this fire played into it.
Yeah. So we definitely, I would say probably 7 years ago, 5 to 7 years ago, we kind of started with the post-incident reporting and meeting as a crew, and it has helped. I mean, it's very good. We've made some good learning points from it. We've taken a lot from it. So, and what we do is we start at the beginning. We start at the dispatch. Did our units go responding within 90 seconds? Yes or no? And if not, what was the deal? That's unacceptable if not. But if, in this particular case, we did have one unit not, because their CAD was down. They weren't responding on the radio, but their CAD was down. So we addressed it in the after review. So, and then just going through it, we talk about the size up, and one of the aspects of the size up is the building construction. And we kind of break that down, and we talk about it, is this this is a pre-1970s built home. So we talk about, we have a little bit more time with these homes. And just to, like I said, we have a young department, just like a lot of people. So we start there, and it just talk about why, because these things they're not always talked about in the fire academy in depth. You get 1 or 2 days of building construction. So adding this into our post-incident reporting kind of gave us the opportunity to kind of elaborate on it. So we talk about that through the size up, and then after the size up, we go into our initial benchmarks and our, what it is. And we, in this particular case, it was search victim survivability. So we did that. Obviously fire control. And then, in this particular one, we had a serious exposure problem, and you can't really see it, but we also had an exposure problem on the Bravo side as well. So I feel like we did a good job. The water supply benchmark, obviously we had a hiccup on, but with regards to the initial attack, we never have an issue with the aggressive mindset up there. We're fortunate that we have the manpower, where the minimum we have is 3-person engine companies and truck companies. So we always have the manpower to go in. Where we have the companies, and like you're familiar with, Chief, everyone converges quickly in most of our areas. So we're able to get the lines in place. We're able to get the fire out. We're able to get our crews on search, and we're able to do exposure protection and overhaul quickly, and really with just a first alarm company, our first alarm company. So. Moving down the benchmark. So, I mean, the 360 size up, the water supply, the first in lines going in the proper positions, exposure lines were put into place, rehab was established, Charlie sector was established, safety officer was established. We were able to kind of hit all of those benchmarks and hit them fairly quickly, with minor issues. So I'd call it a success. I mean, obviously looking at it, it wasn't successful. The third of the house or back half of the house was gone, but ultimately there was, no issues with any injuries or fatalities. So
I think the real key, though, is that you acknowledge things that you did well and things that could need improvement. I don't like going to these after action or whatever I don't care what you call them. So many people get tied up in the legality of it all. The bottom line is it's a learning tool. And, when these departments think that they've done everything correctly, yet you haven't hit benchmarks, it wasn't really an after action report, was it? It was more of a let's congratulate each other. But the difference between a progressive department and a non-progressive is exactly what you're saying. It's acknowledging the problems that you might have experienced in a fire and understanding the alternatives to try to fix those. And I think that's a key, even though you might look back and say, oh, this was a small 800 square foot, 900 square foot home. We had a fire, we had nobody trapped. It was just another day on the job. When in reality, that's not the case. This is a learning experience. It's what we do. It's what you guys do a lot, but you also acknowledge the fact that things can go wrong and you have to correct them. So I just think that they're absolutely invaluable. And, and depending on how you do them, the idea is to get as much accuracy out of them and rules and honesty out of them as possible. With also, the discipline factor too. A lot of people are afraid to talk in those because of the discipline factor. And I think that you have to assure people that, hey, this is for learning, not for disciplinary purposes, unless there's a really bad home that should have been addressed prior. But, how do you guys keep that honesty going in your...
So the way that we kind of do it is whoever was the incident command, they run the after action report, and what we do, we pull up the Zillow picture of the house. We pull up any helmet cam footage or any pictures like you see, like that you pulled up before. We usually pull the audio from dispatch if we can get it in a timely manner. And what we do after that is, so we do it as a crew. And really, I mean, the battalion chiefs, they make it very clear. I'm not going to be here. I'm not here to discipline you guys. We have to learn from it. So what we do after that is then the reports go to the training division, and then they go to the fire chief. And that's kind of what the training division, they formulate their plan for the next 6 months of, hey, we have found over the last 6 months, we've been kind of neglecting X, Y, and Z on the fire ground. So we're going to really focus on that for the next 6 months. And I think the same thing goes for the chief. When he comes down, he'll meet with the battalion chiefs or the company officer and say, hey, I'm reading this. Why did this go this way? What did you guys do to remedy the problem? And what are you going to do in the future to make sure this doesn't happen again? So like I said, it's been successful for us. And, it does no good, like you said, Chief, it does no good to sit in there and just rah, everyone did great when things didn't go great. And we certainly have had a lot of bad things go on, and it's been good. And I think once, that first time when people open up and admit to it, then absolutely, from that point forward, the comfort factor of guys feeling comfortable enough to talk about it is really, that's what you need. You need to open it up and you need to talk about it.
So I'm gonna move to another subject, and that's automatic aid. It's very rare that anybody in a market like ours, demographic of suburban or rural, that we do not use some form of automatic aid, and in some cases mutual aid. The majority is automatic aid. Do you allow your automatic aid partners in the room when you do those?
Yeah. So on the larger incidents, we certainly invite them over for it. If it's a small kind of bread and butter fire, we typically, we just knock it out on our part. What we've done now is that at most of the company officer level, we have a good enough relationship with our neighboring departments to where we will talk about it. And in that particular call, we did, the company level guys talk and said, hey, what do we need to do? And actually next cycle, we're getting together with them to train on what didn't go right at this particular fire. So, and that's where I think that's where we are as our particular region have become successful, is because guys aren't afraid to say, hey, we screwed up or you screwed up. We need to get together because this isn't going to work out in the future. So, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly not everyone that we do automatic aid with is as favorable to opening up or listening or wanting to get together to do that. But we're pretty fortunate that I would say, most all of the departments are open to at least having that conversation, versus saying, well, you guys are screwed up. You don't do it right anyways,
I think we take that for granted, especially in our county, just because there are so many departments that get along very, very well and work together and train together. And we have an abundance, just because our departments are small. I mean, it's somewhat fractionalized, but we all get together. I often tell people we are the kings of dysfunction in our area because we know how to work with this. So for those who are not familiar with St. Louis County, we have 88 paid fire stations within our county, but they're represented by 43 different agencies. We operate without truck companies, and we operate with 3 people, entirely fine. But we have an abundance of resources that are really around us and that come in. And the only way to truly make that happen, like I said, is a strong automatic aid system, or to merge at some point, but I'm not a politician, so they've been trying for 4 years. It's not going to happen. I don't think in my lifetime. But what we have done is we have a countywide stated operating guideline. And really, we have a countywide committee that puts together these operating guidelines. And luckily, I sit on that steering committee with Brian. Brian serves in the local, actually as the union rep, but he's also the shop steward in Florissant. But kind of talk about how you feel about the state of the St. Louis County Fireground Safety Initiative, St. Louis Area Fireground Safety Initiative, and what it means to us as agency.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what we do, like you said there, Chief, everyone has access to it. Everyone knows it. And then the different training groups, so the North End training, South End, and then the Central Core training, they kind of take those SOGs, and when they do their trainings, they base them around those SOGs. So I think the idea of having the 43 different fire departments operating in 43 different ways has certainly gone by the wayside. Everyone has a general idea of what to expect, or when they are running into their automatic aid areas, and that has been, again, that I keep saying, success. It's been successful. You would have a better idea of how long this has been going on. I know we've done updates to all of the SOGs already, so I mean, I would say probably 10 years at least that we've been doing this, and not all departments have fully 100% adopted it, but they're aware of it. And now I think they understand, hey, if I'm responding into Florissant based on the SOG, they operate under the SOG. This is what I should expect to do when I get there. And I think it's great. I don't see any downside to it, especially, if we were St. Louis City or a big city department where you're running with the same people all the time and you're running with operating under the same rules and guidelines. And I think that's all all the fire chiefs, that's all we're trying to work towards. We understand the fragmented fire departments are probably not going to merge, but we got to do something to have us operating, the same way. So everything can just be one smooth machine running forward. And we're seeing it up on the North End. It certainly is, it's better. It's certainly better for the people. It's better for the departments, and everyone is aware of what to expect and what to do when they arrive.
Well, I can tell you, I've been a part of it probably over 11 years. I remember I was part of the working group as a battalion chief working on the first alarm SOG. And I can tell you that we had a lot of deficiencies to correct everywhere. I mean, we're not pointing fingers and not saying one department was better than the other, but what really lacked was our truck company work. I mean, because we don't have truck companies, we really didn't have detail of who does the truck work and how it gets, coordinated with the fire attack. It's not just a matter of coordinating ventilation, but it's coordinating the entire fire attack. And I really think that SOG is built on the success of getting that first line in place, making an impact, getting all of our searches done in a correct and timely manner, and really helping out all those inside and trying to make the biggest impact fire branding. But it takes coordination. There's not one agency. There might be one agency in St. Louis County that doesn't rely on automatic aid on a daily basis. But the majority of us have 3-engine house, 4-engine houses, or even some one. That's an everyday occurrence. So you don't know what your second or third view are doing, or they better know what your second or third are doing, and they're not even in your agency. So having a consistent game plan, like really the key for success in our marketing, really, and any role, part of the United States in that quality.
Yeah, and it's reassuring, from the command level to be able to say, okay, I know my 3 companies. I know the capabilities of my 3 companies that are showing up, and I know any job we give them, they would be fine doing that. But it is reassuring now with the first alarm SOG to say, okay, well, I know those guys know it. I know, my automatic aid, Ferguson, Berkeley, those guys that we run with, they're aware and they're perfectly capable of doing those jobs. So when they come off the truck and command gives them a job, command now can kind of take a breath and say, okay, I'm not concerned. I don't have to have my particular companies in there doing it. And it works.
So do you have any other takeaways from your fire last week?
Kind of take a breath. That was kind of the biggest thing that because when after listening to the audio, I've probably listened to it a dozen times, just thinking, what could I have done different, and when I called when the engineer said, hey, we're out of water. We have no water. You see the lines go limp. Just take a breath and think about it before, there's no need to yell on the radio. There's no need to get excited. And in this particular case, we exited the structure and we were back in doing firefighting activities. I would say less than 20 seconds later. But, you've been on scenes where, the stress level gets heightened and people are yelling and screaming, and you can tell, and it just, nothing goes well. And in this particular case, I was fortunate enough to where none of the crews got excited. The command guy, Charlie side, he didn't get excited to where I was like, okay, well, it's not that bad. I could take a breath. And then we regrouped and went back in. So that would really be the biggest takeaway, is just take a breath. That was, in my time as acting battalion chief, I've never really had like that type of situation where I was like, oh boy, something's not going right. What do we do here? And that was it kind of. And I've been told by, mentors, just take a breath, everything's going to go fine. If you just don't make irrational decisions, take a breath and think about it before you move forward. So
it is unnerving when you're placed in those roles. If you're a young captain or even an experienced captain and you're thrown into the role of battalion chief, it can be unnerving. You walk in because it's not your everyday. I know if I put you on that quint, you know exactly what you're doing, who's behind you. You're in that car, you're by yourself. And it gets tough. It really is. And the next thing you know, you've got that nerve factor. But I think you're right. You take a breath, you rely on the tactics and strategy, you rely on your training. And I always tell our young guys who are in the car, hey, if you ever get, or even in the trucks, if you get nervous, call for help. There's an abundance there to give you a hand. Who doesn't like going to fires? And if you answer that, I don't like going to fires, I hope you are in the process of retirement. You're finding something else to do, because you should always be fired. But I tell you, those are great takeaways. What do you foresee as some of the challenges coming forward in the fire service?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, if I'd be,
it's an open question, I know.
Yeah, I'd be silly not to say, the recruitment aspect of it. As you said, I'm our shop steward, so I'm kind of intimately involved with the hiring process. And when we in 2000, when we had hundreds of people apply, I got hired in 2009 or 2008, and we had 50 people apply, and now we only have 15 people apply. That's a little unnerving moving forward, considering that we're about to hit a time where, just like most departments, you're going to have a mass exodus of, those guys that are in that retirement age. So, so that I feel is a problem. One of the biggest things that I think, and I kind of look forward to or look at, is the culture in the fire service. We're fortunate at Florissant where we bring on guys that are ready to join that culture. We kind of vet them before we hire them. And we want to make sure that we hire the guys that are going to fit the mold and want to do the job. Like I said, we're very busy up there, and we can't, we don't want those guys in the firehouse that are going to sit there and complain about running the calls. What you got hired to do. You came to a busy department, and I think the culture and having the guys buy into the culture is a huge concern or a huge worry.
I completely agree. Culture. If you don't believe culture is important, I beg to have you look at some other organizations with culture problems and see what real training problems they have or real firefighting problems they have. But, it's our job as leaders really to not only we have to embrace change, but we also have to keep a link for where we came from. And I think that's where the real key is to really reinforce that, hey, yeah, we still value what has occurred before us, but we also have to be aware of the changes that are going on and adapt. A lot of people are afraid of this new generation. These kids aren't as great as when we were kids. Well, I've been saying that for years. This new generation is smart. They're aggressive. And I'm excited. I love going into the firehouse and talking to some of these young kids and yakking, talking to kids. And I actually have kids that told me that I'm make step. There's the hell out of me. But it's exciting. You go over there and you see the enthusiasm in their eyes and what they can produce. I think if we can foster and keep this ship on the right point, on the right trajectory, I think we got a great future ahead.
100% agree. And, and that's one of the things that we kind of look forward to, or we talk about at our department is, hey, we need to give that young generation everything we can to make them what they want to do. Because like you said, they are aggressive. They are very educated. We're having most of our guys are coming in now with bachelor's degrees in the fire service. So they've taken the time and the effort and they've invested in themselves. So we can invest in them right off the bat. And I think that's one of the things that we do different, or we don't wait a year. We don't wait till they're off probation to invest in them. From day one, we kind of pride ourselves on the fact that you're part of the team. If you want to go to a class your second week there and you want to, bring something back, go right ahead. So, like you said, I invest in the new generation, because here in a couple of years, they're going to be that generation that's leading the department,
Right. I mean, everybody has a role in your organization, even the younger people. And it's more than just cleaning a toilet or doing the jobs that nobody wants to do. Their role really is to be, hey, I'm going to be one of the senior people one day. That's their role. And our job is to get them there. And I think a positive, aggressive culture is the way to go, 100%. But Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I will let Chief Obelman know what a great job you've done. I'm sure he'll watch, and he'll probably be sad that he missed this, but great stuff. And I know you've got a great progressive and aggressive fire department up there. And I know Jason loves talking about it. And like I said, thanks for sharing your knowledge today, and even sharing, some of the places to improve. I think that's very admirable in what's needed in the fire service today. But I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Truly an honor.
It was an honor having you on, and I want to remind everybody that if you've got something to share, please make sure that you write it down, put it in article format, and send it to Fire Engineering. We're looking for anything tactical. We'd like to hear what you have to say. Just because you haven't written something doesn't mean that we're not going to value your opinion. So put it in. I would tell you to put in for FDIC, but that closed about a week ago. However, make sure that you get your registration in, you attend. And if you have put in for an application, my fingers are crossed for you. I happen to sit on the board, as does Jason. We'll be looking at our applications here very shortly and getting new ideas to the Fire Department Instructors Conference. This is a member-driven fire service. If you have things that you want to see at that conference, please let us know. And we want to make that conference the best conference ever. Every year, it is going to be the best conference in the world with fire service. But we need your opinions, and so get those to us. But I look forward to the future. That's Brian, and I want to thank you for watching today, and keep tactics in your life, and make a tactical impact. Thank you very much.
Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by enforced technology. Only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, those toxins lead to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip, the easiest, most reliable exhaust removal system that features a true 100% seal to eliminate diesel exhaust fumes. To get free grant assistance, visit magnagrip.com.